Good evening. I call this meeting of the Lake Country Classical Academy Board to order on Tuesday, September 12th, 2023 at 6 p.m. A notice of tonight's meeting ran in the Waukesha Freeman on Saturday, September 9th, and is also posted at both campus locations and on our website. Please let the roll call show that all members of the LCCA board are present. I'd like to start by reading our mission. Our mission is to train the minds and improve the hearts of our young people through a content-rich classical education in the liberal arts and sciences with instruction in the principles of moral character and civic virtue. Please join me in reciting the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Would someone like to make a motion to approve tonight's agenda?
So motion. Second.
Second. Any discussion? Okay. It has been moved to approve tonight's agenda. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. The motion passes. Okay. So on to the Citizens Forum, which is an opportunity for those in the audience to make a public comment on any topic that's limited to 3 minutes or less. The board's unable to respond to you right now, but we would be happy to follow up afterwards. So we have 2 public comments this evening. The first one is from Kat Viscus.
Yep.
Right? Her comment is about busing.
Yep.
You can sit.
I'm happy to be back here behind the camera. So I just wanted to bring this to the board for consideration for hopefully next year about busing. And I know part of the deal with LCCA is there's no busing provided by the school, but maybe privately funded by parents of the students. Some reasons that I feel like this should be reconsidered include the price of gas, which is very unlikely to go down, right? And we're predicted to have increases in fuel prices for all people who are traveling so far to school. So that's one reason that's changed in the last couple of years since that decision was made. Not meant to be overly critical, but the carpool to school app was just absolutely terrible, right? So there's not an easy way for parents to find carpools other than trying to hit and miss. There's no way to see which parents live close to you or which kids might be in local grades. There's the two campuses that we have to consider when you're thinking about people who you can pool with. And then the third reason to bring up that is different than when you originally considered that is housing. The housing market is like ground to a halt. It's very hard to find housing local to the school. You don't know where the school will be, and it will take time for parents to be able to go to whatever location you guys move to. So I think those are all reasons to reconsider whether or not busing is an economical choice for parents and would greatly relieve some of like all of the traffic that's flowing to the school and make the burden lighter for them. So anyway, I'd like to bring it to you for your consideration in future school years. Oh, and I love coming to the board meetings. I'm probably the only person on the face of the planet. I love hearing what you guys are doing and all the great work, so thank you very much for that.
Thank you. Another comment from Erica Urban. Thank you.
So that's as easy as I can put it. I was driving here tonight, and as the wind was just blowing, I just thought to myself how incredibly blessed we are to have all of you guys, to have our administration, to have all of our teachers. You guys have made the 3rd year transition the easiest by far, and I have 3 kids at the school. My kindergartner every single morning asks to go to school on Saturdays and Sundays. She wakes up early to get ready for school, so like she really loves it. My 3rd grader constantly wants to learn more. He wants to improve his brain, and my 7th grader is exhausted mentally by the end of the day. So thank you. It means a lot because coming from the public schools, they would come home and they had nothing to talk about. So I love my drive home with them because I get to find out everything that they're doing. So I wanted to let you know that I know that there's always going to be issues, there's always going to be bumps, but I want you to know that I appreciate you. Our whole community appreciates everything that you guys do. Your hiring of staff is fantastic. The teachers care. That's something that you don't see everywhere. That's something that you rarely see. So I appreciate all of the jumps that you guys have done, all the hoops that you guys have done, and keep doing it. There's a lot of us just love you. I know I'm emotional. That's it.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Thank you very much. Okay, we're moving on to the consent agenda. We have 4 items on the consent agenda tonight. We will approve everything first and then move into discussing each item. So, on the consent agenda, minutes, school leader report, treasurer's report, and the president's report. Would someone like to make a motion to approve the consent agenda?
So moved.
Okay, second?
I'll second.
Okay. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Okay, the motion passes. So let's dive in and talk about the minutes from the July 26th regular board meeting. Some of you might have gotten to that a little bit later. But anyone have any questions or corrections to the minutes?
Just a couple formatting things that I made on the treasurer report. On the, thought there was a lot of good detail on the family staff survey. We spent a fair amount of time talking about that, so I thought that was well worded. I had a suggestion of including what we thought the participation rate was. I think Margaret told us what it was, but I didn't have my pencil and paper fast enough. So I just suggested we include that if we have that information. That's it.
Did you make those adjustments directly into the document, or do you?
Yeah, I just don't know if we have participation rate. I just put it as an X and Y. I didn't know what it was.
Okay, I'll check on that. and see. Thank you. Anyone else? Okay. All right, so moving on to the school leader report. Margaret?
Thank you. I think the first thing to open with is that we've kicked off year 3 with a phenomenal start. To echo your comment from the school side of things, we also feel like it's been our smoothest go or get start yet, and we're very pleased with the way things have rolled out as far as our opening events and the first day and the bringing on the new employees even before the first day, professional development and some team building things leading up to the opening events have all just been really, really great. So we are off to a great start, and we were extremely pleased within the very first few days to welcome Dr. Larry Arnn, Hillsdale College president, to the West Campus, give him a tour. He observed some classrooms. He also spoke with some the philosophy class of 11th grade students. They were awestruck, you could tell, and I think we're really pleased to have had that experience. And he was complimentary and just a pleasure to interact with and have on campus. So we're really pleased with that. You'll notice in your report, I've updated the charter goals. So we've also, over the summer, starting July 1st, moved into our new authorization with the Waukesha County Executive. And per that agreement, we have performance measures written into that charter. And I will keep them within the board report each month, even though it's likely that we won't report on many of these items until year's end. But those that do take place or are met over the course of the year, I'll draw attention to those. And for our own kind of perspective and understanding, I retroactively applied them to the 22-23 school year, just so that we could have an understanding of if they had been in effect last year, where we would have stood. Some of the information we need to finalize that is still forthcoming from DPI. For example, forward assessment data still has not been released publicly, so I can't do comparisons to the state or the county yet, as well as attendance rates. of the county and the state also not yet available. So once the school report cards are publicized, all of that data and information from other districts and the state will become available to us to finalize those comparisons. Additionally, our audit for the 22-23 year has not yet been completed, so some of the financial parameters can't be determined quite yet. But as you can see, all the items in green, we met last year, and so likely to meet those that haven't yet been finalized, but we're in good standing and it looks good for us as far as this year goes as well. The previous goals that were in my reports were related to the DPI charter startup. So the report that I submit mid-January and then again at the end of the year, speaking to some of the goals and performance measures that are in place related to that grant. I will still report to you when I submit that metric and receive approval on it. And again, it's mid-January and then again in June, so I'll likely be able to report to you in February and July. Again, I submit that and they approve, and then we move forward from there. Moving into the enrollment section, I will certainly be giving a detailed enrollment data report in October once we've had a chance to settle and finalize things. The per pupil count will be submitted to the DPI on September 15th, the third Friday of the month. And it's looking as though we'll likely report 553 on that date. And we have a couple offers currently outstanding right now, students in the process of accepting offers, being verified and getting into enrolled to get started here. So when all things sort of settle, I'll be able to present some more detailed information about retention and the fluctuations that occurred over the summer and so forth. As I mentioned, we have hired 16 new faculty and staff over the summer months, and I provided the brief introductions that I put out to the parent community in the Revere. I also linked in the report for your information as well. But we have a phenomenal group and they've hit the ground running. We brought new employees back to campus 3 days prior to all of the staff returning. So we had 3 days of that small group working together. We were able to give presentations on the philosophy of classical education. We had great discussions around a couple different articles. We shared kind of the nitty-gritty logistics of everything where they could ask questions and come to understanding. They had curriculum conversations with their assistant principals and had some time as well to just get to know one another. And then we brought everybody back and dug into things again and had an opportunity for a full faculty and staff social all before the first days of school. And so I think they integrated really well and are feeling part of the team already. We do still have 2 current vacancies without applicants. So we do have a need for a special education teacher in the upper school. And we are contracting to meet the needs of our students in the interim with a virtual teacher through a company called GoGo Vision. And then we also are still hoping to find someone who might come on, whether it's part-time or full-time in a facilities assistant capacity, to help Mr. Knapp as he bounces back and forth between the 2 campuses. We've had a couple leaks already. We've had a couple circumstances where it would be great to have another set of hands to kind of address those in the immediate. Speaking of faculty and staff, we in the spring of last year began investigating some different coaching and evaluation procedures and platforms because the DPI does require that we implement one of their approved educator effectiveness plans, and we reviewed the options and determined last spring to go with the platform provided by CESA 6. Both Mr. Wagner and Dr. Wozniak are going through some training right now, and the three of us will be implementing that program. We picked that program because it most closely aligned with what we were already doing as far as coaching observations and evaluations of faculty and staff. And we'll now have to put some information and some observation forms and keep track of things on this digital platform that uploads to the Department of Instruction. And it is a requirement for all public schools. We were obligated to choose one of the options that they put forth. We, again, did our best to align it with our philosophy and our perspective on how we want to coach and support our teachers, and do feel that once we get up and running and get some experience under our belt, that we may have opportunity to even adjust and tweak things to even more individualize it to the way that we do things here at LCCA. But again, we'll be implementing that this year, and we had the first year to get ourselves situated. We technically did contract with them last year, and so met the criteria for our second year, and then we'll be implementing this year and are in compliance in that regard. In the business office, as you can imagine, over the summer months, but especially in the month of August, everything was focused on human resources and onboarding of all the new employees, getting the benefits rolled out. We did have time to revise and update the proposed 23-24 budget, noting the new per pupil amount. And we're looking forward actually next week to the audit taking place. But you received the income statement for the month and the budget versus actual, as well as the bank reconciliation report. And a couple things to note in regards to those financials are that the reporting of salaries for this year will be based on expenses captured from July 1st to June 30th, so the fiscal year. And there will not be any accrual of salaries and benefits in 2024 because we've restructured the payroll system so that after 24 pay periods, the lump sum of any outstanding salary compensation will be paid out on the final June 30th payroll for the fiscal year. You'll also note a rent increase of $2,321 per month at West is included in the July and August expenses. There isn't a rent increase at East this fiscal year. Additional rent, which was included in the rent expense, has been decreased to isolate utility costs. So just for a clearer picture there, we're pulling out utilities and moving that to its own expense line. And just a matter of note, both of our new landlords, as you recall, both campuses were sold last year to new landlords, and we're just really pleased with the relationship that we have with Bridge Church here at West, but also the gentlemen that are now owners of the East property have been great to work with as well. As we looked at things and have revised the budget and updated things, we've determined that the construction costs for the lower level classrooms at West and the update to the upper elementary building at East over the summer are expenses that we will pay for ourselves, so we won't be moving forward with any additional requests for additional loan to pay for that construction. So as you look at the reports, the expenses were increased in the construction service line, and there are less expenses than anticipated in the interest payments of loans moving forward. So there were some adjustments made in the financials in those areas. July and August was a month of more expenses because we spent a lot over the summer to be ready for this year. So with the hiring of new faculty and staff, the initial start contracts for some of our programming, some SPED contracts for known pupil needs, as well as software renewals and the new furniture we purchased, the new curriculum and replacement curriculum that we purchased are all summer expenses. So with all of that said, we are on track with the budgeted amounts for all of those different categories. And then lastly, as I mentioned, the audit starts next week, so we will have our PB in the building working through everything and getting that underway next week. Additionally, I provided you with an executive summary of the revenue and expenses comparing July and August of 2022 to July and August of 2023. Lake Country Classical Academy has experienced favorable growth in enrollment, faculty, and staff, as well as revenue from 2022 to 2023. An analysis was completed to highlight the major difference between July and August of 22 and July and August of 23. The total revenue for July and August in 2022 was $376,144.34, and the total revenue this year was $14,851.78. The decrease in revenue of $360,290.56 is due to the donations of the gala in July of 2022. The other revenue accounts were consistent from year to year. In review of the expenditures at LCCA, there were some items which increased due to the growth of the school and the timing of payments in 2023. Salaries and benefits increased from $225,663 in 2022 to $252,687 in 2023. The increase was due to the hiring of 16 new employees and the retirement plan, which is in place for 2023. Rental expenses increased by $33,900 due to the increased space of the original units of the upper elementary building and the rent increase for the use of the basement at West. Purchase services increased by $30,000 due to price increase of cleaning services, simply due to increased square footage. Additional extermination costs, the new environmental service contract required of LCCA, and credit card fees for the gala transactions in 2023. Textbook expenses increased by about $4,300 due to increased class sizes and some new sections. And technology supplies increased from $6,050 in 2022 to $12,415 due to the new laptops that we purchased for new hires, as well as some replacements for the laptops that needed to be updated, as well as some IT security needs in the upper elementary building. There were significant decreases in expenses from 22 to 23. The most significant decrease was in non-capital equipment expenses from $55,344 in 2022 to $20,840 in 2023. Last year we purchased all new lockers and the bulk of the desks and bookshelves for the school. This year the expenses were for new desks for new classrooms. In 2022 the gala was held in July and the expenses were paid in the same month. The 2023 gala was held in June and the expenses were paid in June. Therefore, there is a decrease in the July 2023 expenses compared to the July 2022 due to that gala timing. Overall, the changes in the activity detail from 22 to 23 were as to be expected, and LCCA is pleased to provide more benefits to the faculty of the school, as well as to provide quality curriculum and increase facility space to serve our community. Moving into student success and school culture, in the very short time that we've been up and running this year, we've had no discipline issues of note, no security or safety issues of note, and then I did put in here just kind of to keep us all on track for how the board calendar is flowing for this year. Attendance records are reported. It says at the close of each semester, but in double checking the calendar, I think it may be at the end of the year, but I'll double check that. I'll report on student services information in October and June, and I'll report on intervention information also in October and June. Athletics is well underway. Our cross-country team is running and running and running already. In the most recent meet, we had a female runner take second place overall and a male runner take 8th place overall, which we're really excited about. We also are offering again co-oping opportunities with University Lake School and St. John's Northwestern Academies for our middle school, our 7th and 8th grade student athletes. And as of yesterday, our after-school enrichment classes are up and running, so we're really operating on all cylinders around here already, which has been great. I already mentioned some of the return to school events, and we had great participation in both the open house for brand new students as well as the meet and greet for returning students. We hosted a Parents Night at East and a Parents Night at West. Both were really well attended. We're looking forward to having Dr. Leonard Sachs on campus later in the month at East for a presentation for parents and guests of the community are welcome as well. And then the next thing we'll be looking to is to host parent-teacher conferences. Our Hillsdale relationship continues to be strong. We have our teachers continuing in their participation with the K-12 coaching team. Teachers who are returning for their 3rd year here will be expected to participate in a Hillsdale offering once per quarter. Our new teachers this year and returning teachers who are entering their 2nd year of employment will continue to participate in Hillsdale trainings once a month. They summarize their experience in whatever that Hillsdale training may be and submit that to administration for our review. Additionally, the administrative team has worked with the leadership coach over the summer, and we've had the opportunity to make some determinations, set some personal goals, and determine sort of a vision for how we want to move through this year as a team. We're excited about that. We also had our first session with our Waukesha County Executive Authorizer just yesterday. And Christina and myself and Sean Lundy from the Waukesha County Executive's Office, as well as Sarah Hackett from the Wisconsin Resource Center for Charter Schools joined us, and Sarah from Works, it's referred to, will be the one facilitating relationship between the Waukesha County Executive and LCCA. She's employed now by Waukesha County Executive in order to assist us with this charter, just reporting and relationship. And she is excited to potentially attend a board meeting in the upcoming future to introduce herself to all of you and also just get a sense for who we are as well. We've had a relationship with Sarah for the last couple of years through Works, and so it's all familiar and really great. She was helpful. We finalized some of the reporting protocols and what the Waukesha County Executive will be looking for and when we'll be looking for and how we're going to electronically share things and all of those sort of logistical things have been taken care of. As far as fundraising and events, we're looking to the 2024 Liberty Gala, and we're hosting some kickoff meetings already at the end of this month. Announcements about those will be in the Revere this week. But Monday, September 25th at 8:30 at Wayland's will be an opportunity for parents to come and hear about volunteer opportunities for the gala, and then again that same evening, second opportunity for the same thing at the Ingleside Hotel. And again, that information we're posting in the Revere this coming week. The last thing on my report is a facilities update. I gave you kind of a long list of all the things that happened over the summer to prepare the buildings for this school year. The 2 major construction projects were finalized. We received occupancy well in advance, so we could start everybody in the right place this year. That was a huge success. But the basement here at West has been just a phenomenal asset with 2 more classrooms and a small group kind of workspace. And I think the students have appreciated sort of a facelift in that area of the building. And we, as you know, we've been using the sanctuary as a lunchroom, and I am so proud of the upper school students and in the way they've been just super respectful of this space. And we've implemented a new system this year where each homeroom is taking a turn to be on cleanup duty. So we have students wiping down tables and breaking the sanctuary down and resetting it on Wednesdays and Fridays so the church can be in on Wednesday nights and again on the weekends, and they're taking out the trash, and it just has been a phenomenal start in the way that we're understanding the responsibility of using a space like that for eating and socializing and having a community lunch, and also just the amount of the gratitude that they have, I think, has been showing through in their behavior as well, and I couldn't be more proud of them. At East, the 4 new classrooms in the upper elementary building are filled with 3rd graders. As you know, we did not increase to a 3rd, 4th grade section this year, so that 4th classroom we've put to use with special education and intervention students. We've kind of cordoned it off into different work areas, and that's working phenomenally well. There's been a lot of other facelift things over there to polish up the surface, and new wood chips on the playground, and the additional security cameras have been incredibly helpful already for us. So we couldn't have had a better start, and we're super excited about all that this year has in store. The last item is an action item that is listed later in the agenda to review the preliminary budget. So that is all I have for you this evening.
Thank you. That's a lot.
It was a lot.
And congratulations on a good start.
Thank you.
Everybody.
So you're not bored?
I'm
What
not.
I'm getting.
I haven't twiddled my thumbs in a while. I know, right?
Can you remind me, are we able to give question or comment in between as well? I thought that was clarified at another meeting.
Yeah, the new policy is that we're not going to be, public comment can only happen during the public comment section.
So not
No matter
after
what it
specific
is.
sections?
Correct. Any topic, any time goes in the public section.
Is that, okay.
Okay. Any questions or comments for Margaret on the report?
Do you have a sense with respect to faculty, like just a sense, what percent have been here from the beginning?
From like year one?
Yeah.
That's a great question.
It's random, but it sounds like as the school's getting older, we're evolving, we're getting more efficient, there are changes.
Because we've added so many, it's probably a smaller percentage of the whole,
Of the
simply
whole,
because we've almost
because
doubled in size.
Yeah.
But I can get those numbers to
No,
you.
I'm just, no homework, I'm just wondering if, I mean, do we have a fair amount who've been here from the beginning?
Oh, we do. We have incredibly great retention. So we have
I would
really
imagine that
solid-
this model would resonate with really good teachers.
I think so.
I have a couple of comments. I really enjoyed reading the introducing new staff. That was nice. Get to know everyone. I mean, I've not met anybody in person, just to get to know them a little bit through the reading. That was 16 new people. That's a lot. So I really enjoyed that. Sounds like we have some really good additions to the team. The summary on revenues, expenses was very, very thorough. Great job with that. Everything seems to be dialed in there. I know we talked more about the budget and all of those kind of things in the next section, so I'll just hold off on that for now. On the count that's coming this Friday, is that based on physical attendance? So if there's a student absent that day, then that would not count? Or is
Students are counted as if they're present any time before and 3 days after
Okay,
the count day. So if they're absent on the count day.
okay. So 553 is what you feel will be at within 3 days of
Sure.
this Friday? Okay, makes sense, I guess. Yeah, I think that's it for now. Hold off until we talk about the budget. On the coaching platforms, you had mentioned that there's like several options we can pick from. So basically, it gives you a menu and you got to pick one. Right? How many options are there? It's like 2, or is there 10? Like just orders of magnitude?
There is a framework modeled after the Danielson rubric, which is a well-known teacher evaluation tool. Well-known doesn't necessarily mean well-liked. There is also the CC6 design, and then there is an option for a school to start from scratch and design your own and present it for approval. The hoops associated with that were pretty extreme, and so we looked at the 2 available options and chose the one that we felt we could work within best without needing to do the work of designing and presenting and hoping for DPI approval on something brand new.
They think that this will be good for a while then?
Oh yeah, we're gonna use this each year to meet the requirement.
Alright. Thanks.
My pleasure.
My questions were sent in an email and you've responded to them already, so I guess I don't have any further questions. You're accomplishing a ton. The thing that I'm most impressed by is the occupancy permits for the 2 to expand facilities to accommodate growth, which is just essential, and you pulled it off again, so fantastic. Okay.
Any other questions? Are we ready to move on?
Yeah.
Thank you, Margaret. So the next item on the agenda is the treasurer's report. Ryan.
Since we did not have a board meeting last month, I'll go through July in addition to August. At the end of July, cash in hand was about 1.3 million, which was approximately 900,000 higher than the year before at 368,000. At the end of August, our year-over-year improvement declined a bit. For explanations provided in the executive summary, we didn't have the gala this past year in July. All of those revenues and expenses were in June. So we ended cash on hand at 820,000 this past August versus 243,000 in 22. So our year-over-year improvement declined 600,000, which is still a very good improvement year over year. As we look at the cash projections going forward, those had been updated for the higher state per pupil reimbursements and U 2.0 construction. We're expecting cash to end the end of December at 1.85 million, which would be about $900,000 higher than what we were last year. So, the result of the higher revenue per pupil, first 2 payments in September, December, and other factors, despite us financing the U 2.0 out of our own cash flow, will bring that overall year-over-year improvement back up to 900,000. And although we didn't draw on the line of credit last year, we're renewing it again this year to keep it in place. We're expecting that to complete sometime this month. That's all I have.
Two questions. I know I'm really simplifying what you just went through, but our cash position year over year is the better part of $1 million better.
That's what we're projecting as of the end of December.
That's awesome! Holy smokes! Can we put that in the record? Holy smokes? Okay.
You're on the
Awesome. That's awesome. Is anybody else thinking this? That's awesome.
Yeah.
I mean, great management, great financial acumen. It's just awesome. The LOC renewal, my other question, does it have to be renewed every year?
Yes, it does.
And if you don't, you lose it. Is it automatic you lose it? Or does it go dormant?
Well, I mean,
You have to start over.
it doesn't go dormant, you would have to apply for a line credit.
I didn't
You have to
know
start the
that.
process again, yeah.
Okay.
Which isn't necessarily complicated, it can be time consuming.
Right.
So better to renew.
So yeah. So you just like tickle it up every year for the same time to kind of check it, and I didn't know that. It's in our best interest to keep it renewed.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes it is. Yeah. Agreed, it is awesome.
Yeah.
And I'm reporting numbers, right?
That's all right.
So, I'm not taking the credit. Good job, everybody here.
I just like you like 900,000. I'm like what? Okay, good.
Yes, compared to where we were sitting, not this last year, but especially years prior to year one, I will echo Margaret's comments. Definitely coming into year 3 much better than in prior years, in a lot of fronts.
Now, the increase in per pupil, is any of that retroactive, or is that come into effect this coming year?
Comes into effect this year.
So
Oh, that would have been really
first payment, I think, was like 2 weeks.
nice. Yeah.
So you have 4 equal payments. You have 4 payments throughout the year. End of September, or I think it's early December, or the middle of February, or maybe it's early February, and then in June, early June.
But there was an increase last year as well, though.
Very slight.
Yeah, there was tribal nation adjustment,
There was
equalization.
that too.
Yeah, for all public schools, I think we made a very minor increase.
Well, it wasn't,
Before the
wasn't that minor, it was
tribal.
above what we were projecting, as I recall.
It was about 5 minutes.
Yeah, which is
It
substantial.
started around 85 minutes in year 1.
Good. All right, thank you. Moving on to the president's report. So a couple things that I just wanted to update the school community on really is, first item is the one campus search and where things are going with that. So the school has actually formed a team to lead the search process for our future one campus site. So the team has issued, currently what's going on with that is we've issued a request for proposals for architecture and engineering, construction management, and financing. And those proposals have been received, and the team is currently reviewing and evaluating all these proposals, and we'll be doing interviews with the top finalists of those, and then we will be having a couple board sessions in the coming weeks to inform the board and provide our recommendations as to who we think should be selected for all 3 areas. And then the hope is to be able to provide more details on our building project to the school community by later this fall. So that's where we are with that. Also, just I think this will be of note to the community as well, that the board's going to be transitioning from using, we've been manually having to go through another party to upload minutes and agendas and everything to the website, and it's not always the most timely. So we're trying to streamline the process a little more and make the work easier. Let's work, smarter, not harder. Thank you. So we're using a program called Board Docs, which is commonly used, I think, by a lot of public schools, where we will be uploading all of our agendas, minutes, policies, etc., to that site, and then we'll have a link on our website, so it'll be easier for the board, but also easier for the public to look for and find information that they're looking for in terms of documents about the school. So that's coming in October. And then last but certainly not least, this evening we would like to recognize one of our board members who's leaving us, Timothy.
Who approved that?
So Tim Peterson, he's been with us the past 3 years, and I'm going to read this from here, I hope you don't mind, because I don't forget. He's been with us, he's really played a key role in our school's development, and he's served as the chair of our ambassadors committee in the very beginning when we were first getting started. He's been a member on our facilities and finance committee and our fundraising committee, and he's played an integral role in securing the modular classroom units at our East Campus. He spent a ton of time and work on that. So we will be forever forever grateful. And although Tim will no longer be a member of the board after tonight's meeting, we know that you are not, this is not goodbye, because you are, especially when it comes to fundraising, hopefully he's gonna be, little plug here, he's planning a fundraiser that's gonna be on September 30th. September 30th at Warren Valley. It's a clay shooting fundraiser. So you can go to our website for more information on that. Yeah, it'll be great. So he'll still be involved with TLC, and I've never met anyone with more passion for K-12 education than Tim Peterson. So you haven't seen the last of him.
I don't know. I think we got quite a passion for it.
So it is my honor to present this to Tim
You already gave
in
me something.
recognition for your service to the board and to the school and your dedication to our mission.
Thank you so much. Well, those of you that know me well, as Christina mentioned, know that I know from my years and years and years in public policy work, there's nothing more important than education. It's way, 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 way ahead of everything else in terms of what happens in this society. So I think everybody in this room pretty much knows that, or feels pretty similar anyway. And so when I was given the opportunity to join Christina on her vision, I was 100% in, and I remain 100% in sharing the vision that we can do better. We can do a lot better. And thanks to Margaret and Tom and Brian and Taryn and the parents, we are doing better. And I think that the state needs to know it. And we need to keep doing what we're doing because they're gonna notice. So I did a site visit today, both campuses, and it just reinforced my feeling that this is the best school and we gotta keep it going. So can't wait to get the one school program, clearly mapped out so we can announce it to everybody. Not there yet, but I know everybody's working hard on it and it'll happen. It'll happen. We're on it. Glad to be a part of it.
Thank you. You will be missed, for sure. Absolutely.
I just want to thank Tim. It's really easy to lament the state of things and just whine and complain, but it takes a lot of work and not many people do it to actually jump in and make a difference. And you did it from the start. We're just so grateful.
You're extremely helpful to me as I ramped up. And the thing about you that I've noticed is you think of the questions nobody else is asking. Like you have that strategic kind of, hey, we didn't think of this, or hey, what about that? And I really appreciate that about you. It's like a perspective.
Yep, I appreciate the passion, the positive attitude, and for helping grow me anyway. Thanks.
It's cool, thanks for that.
All right. Well, thank you. With that, we will be moving into our one discussion item of the night, which is the draft of the 2023-24 budget. I guess Margaret and Lori are going to be doing that jointly, or is it just Margaret?
I'll get us started, and if there's something that we need to discuss that Laura can chime in on, she's welcome to fill in or contribute. But the preliminary budget revised version that you received, again, is revised almost solely due to the new per pupil payment. But we've also made an adjustment to the full-time enrollment for the student count. As you know, we started with a projection of 570. We got into the building revamping construction projects and we realized capacity could be 580. We looked at attrition from year 1 to year 2 and year 2 over the course of year 2, and we ended up deciding that we should budget for a 2% attrition or 2% loss from that capacity. But with the numbers that have come in for this year, looking to be at about 500 553, 550. We decided that the prudent and wise thing to do would be to calculate a 2% from that count, which brings us to about 540. So that number is representative and consistent with previous presentations in the idea of a 2% budget, 2% less than what we actually have enrolled for prudence and security. So that explains that adjustment there in the pupil count number. Then you'll notice the increase in the per pupil payment. I am asking for an increase to the salaries, benefits package. Our previous budget was about 69% of total revenue was calculated or attributed to that component of the people behind making LCCA work. This new request is a 70% of total revenue, approximately, to cover that. We do have a need for an additional sped teacher over the one that we did not find before the start of the school year. We want to budget for an additional sped teacher on top of that. Whether we'll find someone or have a candidate now remains to be seen, but we would like that in the budget. With an increase in revenue, I would like to be able to pursue the possibility of a part-time or full-time marketing communications person, bring in someone who may even have some IT, social media, website savviness that we could employ. We certainly have the need for that. And then there is the possibility to just review and revise some of the current salary offerings and take a approach to our compensation chart and strategy, and really just sort of overhaul and look at making sure that we're being efficient and appropriate in our compensation for years of experience, etc. And so a little bit of wiggle room in the salary section is a request of this new revised budget. The other thing to note is the implementation of our retirement plan. So that is going to be a line item as well that we maybe didn't originally have. We also originally budgeted for the advised expectation for about 80% participation. We're at 100% participation in our retirement plan. So the adjustment on that number reflects that as well. We've already sort of talked about it, but the construction services isn't going to be a loan payment, so it's all in the construction line, different this budget than the previous budget, and then the interest payments that would have been due to the loan are no longer in the interest line, so you'll see those adjustments there, the long-term capital debt and interest down below. I also have a need for increased advertising, marketing, push literature and publicizing our enrollment, not just for this current year, but looking to next year and addressing needs in the high school and what we all know as the 8th grade melt. I'd like a little bit of wiggle room there, and so you'll notice the advertising budget is increased. I'd like to be able to spend a little money to draw in some more students and interested parties, so I'm asking for that as well. Some of our software, the Schoolmint software, is accounted for, and also the authorizer payment has decreased again from 1.5% to a single 1% of our per pupil, so that's adjusted in this revised budget as well. I think that touches on, I already mentioned that utilities is pulled out as its own line item now, different from the last time we talked budget. But other than that, the budget line items have remained the same to the last draft that we discussed, and the highlighted changes are the only adjustments from our previous conversations. Thank you. Yes?
Questions? voting tonight, this is just a discussion, and we'll actually, once we get the final applicable count, in October, we'll be finalizing this at the, October board meeting.
Yeah, a couple questions on the expense line. When you say an additional sped teacher, is that in addition to the one that is currently open? So you'd be looking for up to 2 teachers, or just the one that you're trying to fill?
No, an additional,
Okay.
a second on top of the one that we didn't fill before the start of the school year. Our special education teachers are working with maximum caseloads right now, so any identifying that would happen over the course of the school year will require additional employee.
Okay. How much of the 238,000 variance is the hiring of the additional sped teacher, the marketing resource, and facilities versus just wage increases on the overall staff?
So somewhere between, it depends on if the marketing position would encompass all those things that I mentioned, communications, possibly some IT, like how we can package a single person to do a variety of things, and whether that would be part-time or full-time. The scale for those new additional positions would be somewhere between 90 and 150,000 of that increase, and then that would leave, depending on the hires and the positions, about 88 to 148,000 for existing.
Okay.
It's a little bit of dependence on what we find and what candidates come through our door looking and what their skill sets are.
I guess just a generic comment. In general, I'm supportive of what you need for resources when you're operating a school. So, especially with special ed, I think that would ultimately lead to maybe more categorical aid next year if we hire for successful hiring of a sped teacher. Okay.
Possibly, yeah,
Not that it's a 1-for-1,
right.
but we need to support our special ed program. On the marketing side, I agree that to address attrition in the upper grades and the 8th grade middle, I think we only have 180 followers on LinkedIn, so I mean, we need somebody that can get us out there. I mean, it's great that our families and everybody here knows we're doing a great job, but we need to spread the word. So I think that's a resource well needed. I know we'll dive into the enrollment stuff more next month. I am concerned that our waitlist numbers are down pretty significantly compared to last year. I don't know what's driving that. So more to come on that, but I think we need to have some discussion. In particular, as we move into the financing aspect of one campus, it's really, really important that we hit our projections. There's nothing like we'll put a wet blanket over that process as we go to sell a bond to investors and missing projections. So, whatever the number is that we feel is realistic, we need to make sure that that's what we're representing we can do. So, I'm just concerned that maybe we have some issues there in how we market ourselves that's driving that wait list. I just recall also from some training at Hillsdale that's like a really important thing they try to keep in front of you is having a strong wait list. So outside of that aspect of the discussion for the budget, there's nothing in here that seems unreasonable to me. So certainly commend you for the 3% operating surplus. Obviously the per pupil aid increase certainly helps with that. I guess one last question as I'm looking at this, the occupancy ratio, what goes into the expenses side of that? Is it rent and utilities, plus the term note principal and interest review that we took out last year?
rent and utilities, correct, Mrs. Kari?
Does it include term note principal and interest in that top line?
No, it's the 2 line items, rent and utilities.
Okay. I think it may need to also include the principal and interest. Just because that, everything that we're spending for facilities will go away when we go to one campus. So the rent will go away and the loan will go away for the U. So essentially we're understating what we're spending on occupancy unless we include the principal and interest on the term note.
That's a good point. I think your reasoning is very strong. I'm very encouraged by your ideas on marketing. I'm biased, right? That's my thing. But what you were saying, I think, is dead on. There are a lot of schools 3 or 4 or 5 times as old as a school is, and they still don't have marketing people. And what happens is either you define your brand or the marketplace does. Either you get out in front of it or somebody else does. And we have to give people a reason to believe and want to come here, and a marketing person will do that. I think, and you're probably already thinking about this, there's a difference between a strategist and a doer. So somebody who knows a little bit of both would be great. The fact that you want to bring that in-house this early, I think is tremendous. And I think it's going to pay dividends almost immediately. We talk about social media presence, and not that it's anemic, but it's where a young school that doesn't have an internal marketing person, that's typically where you are. What you end up doing if you don't hire somebody is you farm this work out to multiple contractors. None of them own your brand. They're all doing kind of their own thing, and your check boxes on their everyday, but nobody's like living and breathing the LCCA brand. So this gives you a chance to own it, and I love that. I love that. Part of me is like, if somebody's job is IT, that becomes their whole job. So when you say IT and marketing, my blood runs half cold.
Everybody does multiple things.
But as long as it isn't a black hole, I mean, I don't know that skill set. I mean, it'll be interesting to see what you find, depending on how you post this. But I'm all for it. I think it's very, very strategic and very smart to do that this early.
I can make that adjustment to the occupancy ratio before the October vote. Other than that, are there any additional items that I should be adjusting?
So,
Okay. I'll get that done and have it for your vote next month. Thank you.
sounds good. Thank you very much. Thanks for your hard work, Lori, on that. And we do not have any action items tonight. So therefore, would someone like to make a motion to adjourn the meeting?
So moved. Second.
Any discussion?
It's been nice.
Thank you, Tim.
And thank you all for your well wishes and thoughts and appreciation. It's much appreciated.
We missed.
Looking back over all we've accomplished over the last 3 years, it's just absolutely amazing. From promoting Margaret from teacher to principal and working through that and getting the certifications and all of that was one brilliant move that really has been outstanding. And I think, Brian, were you involved in the difficult decision, the difficult process of moving beyond our first initial principal? That was a big deal. And then finding the new locations when we had originally planned to be in an entirely different building, and then the change in the authorizer. I mean, there's some big hurdles that this board went through, and
School.
those were not small things. Those were big, and the team pulled through and did it. And in the process, we've gotten stronger. The addition of Brian to the board is really, 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 really huge. I think that's probably one thing. If I can take credit for that, I don't think I can take credit for that, but you said I contributed to that anyway, and that's a lot. That's a lot, because the work he does on the financial side, I don't know if it comes through when you're hearing these comments that he makes, but each one of these comments reflects a lot of persistence and diligence and expert experience in reviewing financials. And he's run a big company and run it extremely well. And the finances behind that and the experience that comes out of that is really, 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 really valuable. And I'm just so glad we've got a mixed board. I think it's really important that we keep a mixed board where we have parents and non-parents. So I'm working hard to find another board member to step in and continue to keep this ship moving in the right direction.
Thank you for all you've done. And on that note, all in favor of adjourning the meeting, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion passes. Thank you all for coming.